Live from the Cactus Creek at Ibri, he is the king of prime time, Ghana's undisputed entertainment laureate, and still the youngest old man in Ghana. Put your hands together, show some love for the indefatigable KSM.
It's the KSM Show.
Thank you so much. This is just a quick announcement. I want to say congratulations, man. I want to say a big up to Odadia per se. And the reason I'm doing that is because, the National Math and Science Quiz, Odadia per se has won for the 8th time. And guess what? They broke the 8. So I hear that people are rushing to them and say, yeah, but you how did the per se break the 8? We want to do something. So anyway, quickly, congratulations, you have done well, and you have done us all very proud. And on that note, let me invite you that on November 5th, we're having a dear boom at Cactus Creek. I'm inviting all of you. Let's celebrate a great victory. You can call 055-039-5007. That will get you to Cactus Creek. Let's see all of you there. Today I have in the house a very dynamic, some call him famous, some call him the infamous. Whichever way you stand, it is Mawisi Oliver Barker-Vormawor. We're going to have a chat with him today. Stick around after this commercial break. Oliver will be in the house. We'll be right back.
The KSM Show.
Ebo eba showdown Papa B enwane ye dia boom jumadie I baso live and call it on the 5th November just a kwesi da be ya ewo Cactus Creek ewo every hodie eduane papa special one is that the unhu bisada e ho na obehu se aponchen krakra ye frɛ no odene ho aponchen krakra ahuna bobrim ebuna bun kwan Papa B or therefore Saraki to Ozafi, Nasefo, Bebre, Ubitumia Ditia, cool price 200 Ghana cedis, Ubidis are Copemse Wankasa, Obeme, Na Quampa Band and so Edina Fakwa, or Wondi or Gro Papa B. Ye dear boom, Cactus Creek Ebri, Quesia de Beya 5th November, Minya, Wama, Wayo, Yenshao, Pia.
KSM Essentials has good news for you. If you're in Takoradi and its environs, don't worry. You can pick up Azipa Essentials jacket at Ruler Unisex Boutique in Anaji, Takoradi, Queen of Peace in Takofo Road. Call or WhatsApp 0544 548766.
KSM Show.
Thank you, folks. We're back. And as I hinted in the beginning, my next guest, On one side, some would say he's the famous, others may say he's the infamous, but either way, he's somebody that none of the blocks can ignore. So let me shut up now. Let me introduce Mawuse Oliver Barker-Vormawor. Thank you, love, man. How you doing, Oliver?
It's another day in the Republic. We're finding our feet and we are alive and well, and that's good. Life in this Republic, you take it one day at a time, or one sip at a time. So we are sipping.
Okay, we're going to be getting into that. But are you the famous or the infamous?
Well, I think I've come to understand that you are not everybody's cup of tea. Some people understand and sympathize with what you're doing, and other people don't. And you have to take it as understanding that is one of the challenges that comes with public advocacy. But I think that I am me, I think, and I have a certain core set of values which I always want to stay true to. And whether that makes me famous or infamous, I hope it's an invitation of a discussion of what those principles are in the first place. I
hear you. First question, and this is not related to what I want to talk about today, but because this is happening now and it's on the lips of everybody, I'm talking about the spillage from the dam. Being as an attorney, is the people who have been affected have some kind of right to sue the VRA or to sue government or to plead their case somehow.
You know, my take is not only legal but also personal. My family is from there and affected communities. Like my grandfathers and my grandparents lost a lot of property for those dams to be built to provide electricity to this country. So we have always seen that as a sacrifice that we have given to this country. And we've lived in the shadow of these dams for a very long time. So many of my relatives have died as a result of the dam and frequent spillages that have happened over the years. And so we're deeply connected as a people to the dam and what it means for this country. Now, to think that in this day and age, that we would have a state that would intentionally drown its own citizens, and we're using the language of, disaster and other things. It is not. It's an intentional act done by certain individuals without regard for the dignity and humanity of the people who have been affected. And I think that this is something which in other jurisdictions would have crippled and maybe VRA would have gone bankrupt, because the number of businesses affected, the number of farms, whether it's regular farms or fish farms, the homes, the displaced people's school children who have been put out of schools. This is a huge class action that we are sitting on. And I think that conversation isn't something that has gone away completely. A lot of people have reached out and asking questions about what is the best way forward in dealing with this situation. And I think it's hugely responsible. How we come out of it and the direction we show as a nation would define us all. So far, I've seen that in terms of our individual and collective private efforts, there's a lot of human solidarity. But that messaging is not coming from the top down. We are not seeing the state take the lead. We're seeing individuals do that. And that's what I suppose is the bittersweet thing that is coming out of this experience for me.
So ordinarily, there should have been a class action suit in other jurisdictions, like the farmers would like to sue something.
Yes, absolutely. In many other jurisdictions, several class actions, businesses will band together. A lot of hotels have had their property destroyed. The hotels will come together and bring an action. The farmers will come together and bring an action. The communities will come together and bring actions. This is so much property has been destroyed and damaged in what has happened. And the fact of the matter is, one of the things that we have to be able to live with is that once you dam any river, the risk that dam can cause human damage or any catastrophe always lives with dam in every country in the world. The problem in this case is what took place before we got here. Because to be able to monitor water levels for a very long time, you can be able to do consistent controlled spilling over the year to prevent this kind of catastrophe. Beyond that, it is insufficient to put up 3 or 4 notices on social media and say that you have informed people to move to higher ground. What does that mean? Higher ground where? People should take their wives and their children and move and go and stand where? For how long? What is the evacuation protocols that are put in place? What are the systems that have been designed to that effect? In fact, VRA was asked in one of these interviews whether or not they even have liability insurance. They don't. You need to have the basic minimum liability insurance because you know that this is an inherent risk. Farms are going to be destroyed, be able to value property. And I understand that they say they have put together either 20 million Ghana cedis to compensate people. And I'm saying that even coming up with that figure shows how rash decision makings are here. Who has done any evaluation of what is in fact the total property lost? Who identified the class of victims in this particular situation? What component of the money is supposed to go to urgent and humanitarian situation? How do we get our children back in schools immediately? All these things haven't been done, and to throw a figure up into the public domain, it's an insufficient thinking through how do we do right by our fellow citizens who have been affected by this.
Which is really, really sad. This seems to be us, this is Ghana. It has come, we are now all upset, we are talking, and I'm figuring they'll say, oh, Ghanaians, you give them another couple of months, this thing will die down until the next unfortunate thing happens, then we all talk. How do we ever get to a point where we are proactive enough to know that these things should be prevented? Or do we just relax in our comfort that if it should happen, Ghanaians will talk about it for a couple of months and then move on?
I hear that a lot, this idea that something doesn't stay in the news forever. I have never seen in history anything that has stayed in the news forever. But the pains remain. We don't talk about the Holocaust today, but the tragedy of the Holocaust and the scars that it leaves continue to shape even global politics to this day. People continue to carry on the pains of that. Like, I wasn't alive when my grandparents lost all that property when the dam was constructed, but these are stories that are told to us young people, and we feel those pains. I grew up in communities where people could not build again. Our homes were built with roofing sheets because of the memory of what had happened to our families. Over 80,000 people flooded, still remained and endured. So those pains do not go away. And if you continue to talk about it and move on, it accumulates over time. There are persons who today did not experience what happened during the years of the revolution, but can describe the pain of their grandparents who were lashed in Makola markets. All these things do not go away, and they continue to undermine faith in our democracy over time. And this slow build-up is what the state must watch and guard against, which we are taking for granted. And one of my biggest points of talk in this country is the value of the Ghanaian life. That the system does not sufficiently recognize our dignity as people. And everything goes on a day-to-day basis. At some point, it's going to boil over. And that's what I am afraid of every time when I speak out.
Yeah, you're so right. I think I've seen a post or two about you talking about Ghanaian lives matter. Somehow we gloss over very, very important issues. There was this whole fire, whole disaster at Piazza.
Yes.
This destroyed with and we just moved on. Lives didn't matter. What do we do? Is this an evolutionary thing that at one point we're going to evolve to a place where lives will matter? Why don't we value life as much as we should?
I actually don't believe in the sense of an evolutionary theory. History doesn't show us that's what the pattern. Societies move in circles and whatever. It has to be a conscious approach. Everything must be intentional rather than expecting that it will happen in some regard. That persons of a certain moral fiber and values has to define the public outlook on how we treat each other as citizens. And if we don't have that inculcated and intentionally driven into how our young people think, into how authority relates to us as people, it will never sustain. And we can live in this wilderness. It's a bunch of people who buy the latest civilized gadgets, but we ourselves in our relations to each other do not show that sense of we are civilized, So that's kind of where it has to come naturally. One of the things I always say about a young Ghanaian growing up in Ghana is that there's a set of core values in terms of your relationship to money, your relationship to the environment, your belief in and even your conversations around climate change and whether you own a sense of responsibility to the next generation, that you have to be able to find that yourself, that our society and educational system does not give that to you as a default. So that if somebody says that I'll go into a workplace and not accept bribe, it's not because that's what society has been able to inculcate in the person. The person has been able to find that moral value from somewhere else. And every time the society is reminding the person that that's actually the wrong thing to do. So that if you find yourself in that situation, you are most likely the most isolated one. There's the lip service and there's what society punishes you for. And very often, the society punishes those who are forthright, who speak out, who demand different. Those are the messaging we send down to our young people every time they look at us in everything we do.
The viewers, you have to forgive me. I was just so excited about interviewing him. I just plunged straight into it. I didn't do any background introduction. Although you're a lawyer, you have a law degree.
Unfortunately, I'm a lawyer, yes.
Unfortunately, a lawyer. Well, you studied quite a bit because you have a law degree from Harvard, and you're now doing your PhD at Cambridge, the UK?
Yes.
Wow.
You know, I always used to say that there was a point in my life when the meaning I was giving to life was chasing some of these things. You know, so yes, I work at the International Court of Justice, I work at the UN, things like that tend to give me some sense of meaning. But I feel like I'm at a point of my life where I'm much more fulfilled than when it was all about ticking the boxes because that's what parents expect of you. That's what society reinforces as this is the marker of somebody that needs to be taken and respected for those things. But I think that my life now is defined more in terms of what am I giving to the next person? How much of my life am I ensuring that the next person does not go through the kind of experiences that other people around me are going through? And that shift has given me more fulfillment than at the point where it was a blind chasing of what monetary value or what society deems like these are the boxes you need to take to be respected in society. So for instance, in our society now, there's so many people now that have PhDs, right? But we are not seeing the real output or input of that in terms of how the quality of our lives, the responsibility we have towards others, the empathy we show. Those things is redefining my outlook on life. And I am grateful that, you know, I am having that kind of awakening before I get into my 40s, you know, I think.
Well, and because I see that you are sort of focused on the pro bono aspect of law. Is that like so important to you that because you went to, we'll get to that. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but you went to jail, you stayed in jail for 35 days.
Yes.
And when you came out of it, I think it refocused you on things that you think need to be changed. Tell me a little bit about it.
So, like for instance, when I was arrested, talking about that, and I was sent in, every person and every lawyer that came was like, okay, quickly, let's apply for a bail and get you out of here, and let's try to get you out. But then there's so many people who I met in there who had been in there for a long time for certain things that the police were doing, which is instead of taking somebody who you have charged with whatever crime before the appropriate court, they would keep sending them to the wrong court. And the court will say, I have no jurisdiction, and the court will remand you. And for 3 years, people were in this situation all around me. And I said, this is a practice that we must challenge all the way to the Supreme Court. And I don't care if it takes me forever to stay in here. As long as there's a media limelight on this issue, let's get that issue struck out. It accounts for the fact that there's over 60% of our jail population, in fact, because most people are just awaiting trial who are stuck in there. And the vast majority of the time is because the police do not send them to the right and appropriate court. They didn't know this. As I was sitting in jail, my sense of responsibility was around, once you're in this situation, how do you make this corner brighter? And for me, that sense of wanting to make that corner bright was also putting myself on the line and my story and my privilege. In fact, when I say privilege, I mean for the fact that there was so much media coverage that was going on, was an opportunity to be able to project other issues beyond myself. And that's kind of what the challenge I took upon myself. And that, I think, has continued to define what I believe the role of law and lawyers should be in terms of the system. Unfortunately, the legal profession in Ghana is structured in a way that it is about privilege and access. And I always give this example. So many Ghanaians deal with police harassment and violence. What is the Ghana Bar's response to this? They print stickers for the lawyers to paste in their car so that when they are driving, the police will know that these are lawyers and let them go. But then they reserve the brutality of the police force and our society on the commoners. But lawyers should be doing the different. They have to be able to take that on so that other people would live much more freely in our society. you know.
What they throw out there is, well, we need to make money, even to be in the position to take care of the poor in the society. And for example, how will they now jump on board what you're suggesting, which makes sense? But when the argument is, but I don't even have enough on me to work with somebody who needs my help.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I find interesting is that, and I hear this all the time, people tell me that if you don't have enough money, you can't make change or you can't do good. And it's absolutely not true. Like, there's so much the show says that often in the poorer communities where there's a sense of solidarity and community sharing, that the poor man's child can walk from one house and go to the other house and be able to find food at another person's table. But the richer you get, the higher your walls go up, the fewer people that are able to come into your space for you to be able to help. And no person who says that I can only give when I have more will ever get to do that. It is the little, those who have little, who are sharing, that when they do have more, have ingrained themselves into the practice of sharing. That's what I truly believe. Now, think about it. There's so many people now, for instance, where in terms of even the legal profession and what they can do to be able to help, a lot of the times, I am not running on so much, but I know, understand that there are other people who also need my sacrifices, who need my help. Then what do I need in this life? Whether or not you make millions or otherwise, we all line up at the same kinky joints, right? Like this, there's so much, how much more can you eat? And I always give this example when Sir John died, that ultimately death makes nonsense of our greed. Because you go up about and accumulating and sharing and taking state property, and at the end of the day, you leave it and you're dead and gone. It doesn't make any sense, the things we're chasing for half of the time. But the impact our lives can make is also about how much we share, rather than how much we accumulate. And that's kind of my perspective on life. There are so many people around us that tell us that they are religious.
Share more than how much we accumulate.
We accumulate, yes. And there's so many people who say that they are, even who are religious, right? Christian. And there's so much even within the Christian faith that hammer on this message about if you think about the parable of the talents, the one with the little who made something out of it. You know, and even if you think about Christ talking about when I was hungry, you fed me. It was never about accumulating, it was about giving. And I think that if this is truly things that we care about, we'll find the examples all around us. But I think that we have made greed the center stage and the center point of our culture and politics, that nothing else matters. Like, we don't even question today ill-gotten wealth. Somebody can stand up today and rich overnight. And if you question the source of their wealth, it's like, oh, this is jealousy showing itself. But no, that's not it, you know? So I think it takes a lot of social reorientation and rethinking. But we are not doing that work. And that's which is the most frustrating part, I think, as a society.
Okay. I'm listening to you now, and I'm hearing somebody who's very passionate about giving back, passionate about those who cannot afford, you know. And you're the same person, too, who's been accused of wanting to do a coup, charge of treason, one of the most treacherous people living in this country now. We're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, let's get into that aspect of who you are and why there's so much fuss about whether or not you want to make such a coup in this country. So folks, stick around. We'll take a short commercial break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from Oliver Barker-Vormawor. Stick around, we'll be right back.
KSM Show.
Ebo eba showdown papa bi enwane ye diabum jumadie. I baso live and call it on the 5th November. Just a kwesi da be ya ewo Cactus Creek ewo every. Odie eduane papa special one is that the unhu bisada. Ono be hu se aponchen krakra ye freno odene ho aponchen krakra. Ahuna bobrim ebuna bun kwan papa bi therefore saraki tuoza fi na sefo bebre ubetumi editia cool price 200 Ghana cedis ubedidi sa akopem se wankasa obeme na kwampa band nso ejina fa akon a onwodi omo agro papa bi ye dia boom Cactus Creek ebri kwesi da be ya 5th November menua wa ma wa ye ho ye nhia ho pia
Azipa Essentials has good news for you. If you're in Takoradi and its environs, don't worry. You can pick up Azipa Essentials jacket at Ruler Unisex Boutique in Anaji, Takoradi, Queen of Peace in Takofo Road. Call or WhatsApp 0544 548766.
KSM Show.
Thank you. We're back. And I'm speaking with Oliver, who I call my nephew. And, we're talking about some of his principles and what he believes, and they sound fantastic to me. I believe mostly the same things about giving back and reaching out to those who are not as privileged, if you will. And here he is. He's also one of the guys. I don't know if you remember the story that he was charged with treason at airport. He was arrested and thrown into jail because he had planned the coup. And of late, I don't know how much I can talk about it, but he's been going back and forth with the National Security Advisor in terms of something he said. Let me get to him so that he will tell us. So, Oliver, here you are also on one side, you seem to be like a rebel. Is it with a cause or without a cause? You
Hopefully with the cause.
With a cause. And the whole thing about you wanting to stage a coup.
Yeah. I think that there's no doubt that the things I am saying seem simple and appealing, but those in power recognize that this is disruptive of a certain way of doing things. That they expect that when they want to pay people, pay their way out of a situation, they should be able to pay it. That our messaging and saying to people that this whole month, do not give a cent or a peso to a policeman who arrests you, do not pay any bribes. Those are disruptive of the system and the way of doing things. I have no doubt about it. Now, as far as they are concerned, there's only one language to be able to interpret and be able to internalize what we are doing, which is that this person wants to do a military coup d'etat. Absolutely not. I have never in the army. In fact, in the history of this country and the whole world, I am the only civilian who has been charged with treason, who is standing trial alone. And apparently I want to overthrow this country or do a coup d'etat alone with no civilian or military background, with no military training. It's never happened before. But when power acts in this way, when power reacts in this way, you have to understand that it's coming from a great place of insecurity. And that place of insecurity is something that we must continue to step our foot in. This is a system that they have designed to work in a certain way. It is to disenfranchise the majority of people so that the few can continue to benefit. And when you poke fun and when you ridicule that system, they get antsy about it. This is what we have done. From the very beginning, those in the system have accused us of wanting to do a coup d'etat. Where they got that idea from, I don't know. The Minister for Interior was in Parliament saying that we are operating, we are hijacked by terrorists. Deputy Minister of Finances, we are operating with a coup d'etat mindset. At the point when all we're saying is that this system has to have better dividends for every Ghanaian, that we need to change. And when we're talking about change, it's not this back and forth between two political parties that have not been able to lift us out of their base of poverty. Poverty is man-made, and we can move our people, the vast majority, out of that situation. That's all we're saying when we're accused of being terrorists by our own government. But I understood what was going on. Because one of the things that a lot of times happens, one, when young people speak, our voices tend to be quickly militarized so that violence can be used against us. I understand that dynamic. This has always happened in history. Secondly, you want to be able to evoke people's pain. People have brutal memories of a coup d'etat and ascribe it to persons who are demanding change in order to dissuade others that do not listen and do not follow what they are doing. But the truth of the matter is that we have always believed that this system can change within the democracy. That our very first start that I was being reported at the police station for treason by the NPP, the National Youth Organizer of the NPP, when they reported me at the police station. At the very first demonstration we did, this is what I said: we do not need guns or soldiers to overthrow a system. With our lips and with our mouths and with our ideas, we'll reform the system. They said that alone was treasonous. And so I always knew that the system wanted to find a way to crack us down. And so I started mocking this idea that we wanted to do a coup. And I would use it, and I was using the power of sarcasm and irony. And this is something I've always talked about you. And I say this not facetiously, because when I was growing up, I grew up on you. I remember your shake hands to Jerry Rollins and go that time. I remember it vividly, because I always wanted to go into comedy and stand-up comedy. And I believe in the power of comedy as a potential one to ridicule a system and to poke fun at the things that the system holds dear, but which in fact do not make sense. And so that language of sarcasm and irony, and I was deploying consistently, that eventually somebody said that they believe that when I said, then I will do the coup myself, this is not sarcasm at play, but this is actual person who is planning. That they went to court and went for a search warrant, and they deposed the fact that I have machine guns, grenades at my home. And they went and searched, they found only granates. For me, it's funny in itself that the system only understands one language of change, which is brutal and violent change. But no, ideas change people. Comedy changes people. These things that they take for granted, the arts, change a society and a social perspective of the people. That's the coup I am interested in, the intellectual coup, the coup of mindset. That's the only change that we need as a society to grow. Not recourse to guns and violence. Africa has had a violent past and a military past. Those haven't taken us any closer to the values and the society we want to build. Why repeat those discredited ideas of the past? It doesn't even make sense. But I laugh because I know that the system does not have any other way to compete and understand the kind of things they are seeing before them. And so it is in the same regard that when they say that the opposition party is funding you, that I laugh at it, because it is still the same language of the system. They can't be able to compute a different politics, I think.
Yeah. I, for one, of course, I got it. I was like, really? And I don't think it's just me. I think most of Ghana got it, because there was a whole time where people were just spoofing it. Somebody said he has a calorie and he was about to, I think it was go down. Why do you think that it was misinterpreted to that level and believed?
I completely do not think it was misinterpreted. I think that they know exactly what it is, but that it offers them an opportunity and an in, to confuse and create a sense of, fake outrage around it. I know this game, right? And the fact that one of the things that they find challenging is the fact that you want to take him to jail, fine. Okay, but then why is this guy not immediately applying for bail? He has decided to stay here and fight it to the Supreme Court. Why is he doing these things? Because I was always anticipating what the system wants. And they want it to be beaten down. And the fact that you have taken the power that they hold over you is deeply frustrating to them. I know this. And I will continue to do that, because I know that the only weapon they have is weaponizing fear and brutal force. It means nothing when they realize that they no longer have that hold over you. So I think that they have found an opportunity and they wanted to milk it. Unfortunately, it continues to backfire every day. And so what they have decided is that, we're going to try to disrupt his life as much as we can. We're going to prevent him and take his passport away from seeing his family or traveling for businesses or anything. And that's fine. For me, every situation and every corner you put me in, I look around me, I said, okay, how can I make bread out of the 2 cups of olive oil that is around me? Make something out of it. Create a social movement. Find for people an opportunity to be able to represent people, draw lawyers in, things like that. Any situation in which I am put in, I'm looking around myself and I want to make some impact. And that's what my life is going to be.
What you were thinking of, you're consciously aware of what you're doing when you didn't want any bail and you stayed in jail for 35 days?
Yes. In fact, when I was arriving, before I left, I always knew that the system was planning to arrest me. I always say this. Like when I was transiting through Lisbon, I was at the airport and on the phone with my lawyers, and we're clear that this was going to happen. But I said to myself, well, nobody's going to make me go into exile for my own country. It's not going to happen. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to allow you to do what you do. But ultimately, it is not a race, it's a marathon. And I am sure that the moral arc of justice bends the way in which we are going. And I just kept that faith again. So I have never at any point told myself that they are going to react in a certain way, for which reason I need to stop myself. Even if you think about our last protest, where 56 people were arrested by the police. Before we came out, it was clear to us that they said they were going to do this. But we said that we are not going to use your violence to cower in our democratic activism and demand for difference. Do what you have to do if you feel like that's what you want to do. It's like Jesus turning to Judas Iscariot and said, do what you have to do. Because you have to accept your faith. Now, it doesn't mean that I am so strong-willed that I'm not aware of my own frailty as an individual, that I could lose my life. I know it. But sometimes I've made peace with that in some regard. But there are moments where, like, even Christ and Gethsemane went and cried and said, if this cup can pass, let it pass me by. That there are times when your faith is down, your resolve is low, but you have to remind yourself of what the bigger message and bigger value is. And that for me has always been what I continue to get driven by.
What times have your faith gone down? What times have you ever questioned yourself, is this all worth it? Is Ghana worth dying for?
One of the things I always say about that is that I don't think that anybody has to lose their lives in the cause we are fighting for. Okay? And it's not just about whether or not somebody is worth your death. It's whether or not your death is worth your own principles and values. So define it on an individual level. If these are the values you have, are you able to live by that? And leave it at that. And if it is that process, some other people find relief out of it, then fine. But live by your own values first. But if you don't find a spine of your own values, then you're going to be blown away by the wind. They're going to proposition you with money, and you're going to take it and you run away. You are worse than those who claim to be part of the system, status quo. Again, I'm sorry, but I use a lot of religious references. But this is why the Bible is even harsher on hypocrites. That if you have chosen a particular path for yourself, you have to be able to find the courage of that conviction. That for me is what is driven me by. So I am not dying for somebody else. I want to die for my own the values I've chosen upon myself, I think.
So it's not like you want to die for the nation. You are standing by your principles, and if that means you die, that's a different.
In fact, I want to live for my principles, but I can never control what others do. I want to grow up and see the things we are fighting for to fruition. Some people have had the benefit of seeing that. Mandela saw, for instance, apartheid South Africa turn into a democracy. Others did not. Steve Biko did not see that happen. So others may lose their life in the process. But my hope is that I live long enough to see a different Ghana, a Ghana that is much more empathetic, that the things that we are crying for that we're not able to see in the lifetime of my father and my grandfather, that we may be able to see it in our lifetime. That's the ultimate dream, I think.
And I want to come back to currently, there's this whole thing between you and national security. You had gone and said that they had offered you a bribe, or made an offer, and they totally threw that out into the dustbin. And they say, if you have evidence, bring it out.
Yeah.
Do you have any evidence, or is this part of just gingering the system?
No, I mean, I have no intention to play by the corrupt politics of the day. For folks who know me and people who really know me, that I am driven by only one thing, my integrity and my values. I will not play that game where you accuse people of something just for the politics of it. No. The National Security Minister did in fact proposition me. He did so as a member of this government. It was not a monetary proposition, was not the only thing. Appointment was also offered as well. And when I said that seriously. In fact, when the news broke, persons who are aware of the story were the ones who wrote it on social media before. Most people haven't even done the correlation to realize that at the time the news broke, I was in jail. I have been jailed. I've been picked up in jail. And that I came out to find that, well, acquaintances had put this on the internet. and this broke. So this would have already given me understand that I didn't do or say anything as a way to draw people to demonstrations. It's not the first time you've done this, a demonstration, so there's no need of it. Now it's clear. After this broke, obviously, the first thing that I had to remember, and a lot of people who advised me said that you have to remember that this is the Minister for National Security of this country. They have tremendous power to get away with anything. Your first instinct is to protect your family and to protect yourself. What is the best framework to do that? So we sat down and we discussed and we said that, okay, these people with the control they have over the media can claim that this evidence you're providing is not true. So let's go to the office of the special prosecutor. Let him do that work. At least you've gone to a government agency. And if they fail to do that work, you have done your part as a citizen. So we released a statement saying that we're going to the office of the special prosecutor. The very next day, he goes to court to file an application in court. And if lawyers know, they know that it was an attempt to prevent the special prosecutor process from going forward. But I said that I have faith. The reason why I haven't talked about this for 2 years, because I was looking for the right time to be able to come public with this. So this is not going to stop us. We're going to go through that process. And then I realized that they were doing this only for the propaganda value of it, hoping that, you know, they always bank on Ghanaians to forget and then leave. But I have so much staying power. So I said, okay, why are you not serving me? Then I go and give an interview and say, they haven't served me. I don't understand why they claim to have filed something. I still haven't been served. The next day, they put it in the public domain that I am the one evading service. And the Minister for National Security goes and swears on record that he doesn't know where I live. When he didn't know where I live, when they went to court and claimed that I was stocking ammunition in my home. So I went to the court and called their bluff. Well, they claim they can't find me. I have come myself. Bring the service. I will take it. And I sat there and I showed to the world that, you know, I don't want to play this gimmicks. If he truly believes what he's saying, we are getting an opportunity in court and we're going to be able to establish that. Now, that is my only interest, that the Ghanaians will be able to have access to the truth. Because one of the things that when these people try to deal with me is that I know their politics and I know the way in which they play. And I'm ready for them. I have the bandwidth and the energy to go all the way. So yes, I am giving this process a take. Ultimately, they say that, you know, those who do not have truth on their side rush and act hastily, but truth is always patient.
Truth is always patient. You're looking forward to the court date? Do you have the date?
I am. I mean, now I went to the court, I accepted the service myself, and I signed for it and I took it home. The next day, their media said that the National Security Minister grabs Oliver Barker-Vormawor by the balls. I'm like, it's funny sometimes when I think about this cheap propaganda. It always reminds me, I remember who said something about, which said that, you know, if today's press was covering Jesus, they would say that instead of Jesus walking on water, they would say that, shit, Jesus cannot swim. You know, there's always going to be a twist to it.
Actually, that was my joke. It was politically incorrect.
I know that it's going to be a joke. I know that it's one of those things that I'm saying. There you go. You see,
yeah.
I've had this subconsciously that Jesus could not swim.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's what you're seeing happen as well. You know?
Yeah. I see. I haven't even gotten personal, but so you married with kids. What's the personal life like?
I mean, I have a partner who's been great and supportive. It's a difficult space. To tell you what, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people do not come out and speak out is also there's so much social pressure. Like till this day, I mean, there's no single day I don't wake up from messages from family and friends telling you that to give up, that you are always being reminded that it is not worth it every single day. Wow. But I'm glad that I have a partner who is supportive and understands that everybody has a calling in life, and this is what this person is passionate about and is doing. Wow. And then the best we can do is to continue to support them. But you know, wider it's difficult generally to do. And I'm grateful for her support, and as long as we have life, we'll continue to be able to stay true to what means so much to us.
Oh wow. That was going to be my next question, you know. How does she feel about the cause you're fighting for?
Oh, I mean, she takes it difficultly. I mean, she's not a social, you know, out there person. She works for the UN. She likes to keep the low profile and whatever that entails, you know. But I think it's an understanding of two people who understand how they complement each other. And I think that one of the ways in which you do that is to be able to accept people's principles and values. That the best thing you're doing is, you know, take precaution, be careful, maybe putting in place structures and systems that protect your family and things like that. and yourself as well, because ultimately as well, your loss, it's the people after you who are going to feel the deep pain of that. But yeah, she at some point she's had to go off social media because she can't take it. You know, it's hard, and you have to find ways to kind of protect each other in some regard.
You personally process some of the stuff that you see on social media about you that you believe are so false, but they are out there and it's entrenched in people's minds. How do you process it?
Yes, I think one of the things that I love about comedians is that you can give and you can take. And one of the things I always say is that anybody who seizes the power of speech understands that speech is always stigmatized. That as much as you're demanding something, people are going to use that speech in so many different ways. I am a speech absolutist. I believe that people should be able to express themselves and be able to speak up at every point and at every point in time. And that means that they're not always going to speak up in a way that is deemed socially acceptable. The whole point of freedom of speech is to protect undesirable speech. But if speech was desirable, it would need no protection. So I always understand that. So that if anybody is using their speech in a particular way, I just look at it and I laugh it off and I go. Because I am using the same medium, that as much as you give it, I'm also throwing something back, so that my hope is that that exchange of dialogue creates, you know, it's a marketplace of ideas. Other people who believe and who are, you know, pushed by what I am saying will cling to that messaging, and those who do not want to accept that will do something different.
All right, thank you so much, man. It's been great hanging out with you. And this is our first really hanger. The first time you came on my show, we were talking about the fixed nation growing up, you know. But I think I need you back again. So we can talk about many things that I didn't.
No, I'm telling you, if you say jump, I'll say how high. Like, that's how much I adore you. So you want me to jump?
Okay, you'll be jumping very soon. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot, and I'm sure so have the viewers. And I really appreciate what you do. And I think one of the things that touched me most is this desire you have to sort of like group lawyers who will be willing to work on a pro bono basis, you know, for many people who do need it. And I'm sure many lawyers do it, but your particular attention and focus to put that together really impressed me. And yes, in fact, I do agree with you that in Ghana, Ghanaian lives do not matter. You know, so of course, when I see you stand up and talk so much with passion about loss of life, loss of dignity for Ghanaians, regular average Ghanaians, you know, I'm always with you. So keep up the good work. And as I always said long ago when I was on radio, I had to say that truth crashed to earth shall rise again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity as well to speak to you.
My pleasure. Okay, folks, we're hanging out with the famous or infamous, whichever way you want to look at it, but he has explained that he's by his principles. And I will be coming again your way next week with something and some other person who is as exciting. KSM standing up saying, I am out of, let the whole world say, hey.